When we talk about open world action games, GTA is always the first one that pops into our mind. And as a Chinese player who grew up playing almost every GTA game, I've always had the same question in the back of my mind. What if GTA didn't happen in the US? What if it were set in a city somewhere in Asia? Back in August 2012, a game set in Hong Kong actually came out. Within just 2 months, it sold over 1.5 million copies and became the 6th best-selling game in the US in the same month of its launch. And because of that, some people even called it the GTA of Hong Kong. So today, we are talking about Sleeping Dogs.
Exactly. You done?
This is crazy, man.
You can't always wait for the world to hand you what you want.
The reason why I decided to make this video is actually very simple. A while ago, I was going through some of my old game collection, just revisiting some titles I hadn't touched in years. And I ran into Sleeping Dogs. I booted it up, played it again, and honestly, I didn't expect it to hold up this well. When I started looking into it a bit more, I noticed something interesting. If you go on YouTube and search Sleeping Dogs Underrated, you will see a lot of videos saying the same thing. Different creators, different angles, but same conclusions. So that means everyone agrees that this game is underrated. Which made me ask a very simple question. If this many people think Sleeping Dogs is underrated, then why was there never a sequel? And while replaying the game, I kept noticing one word that the game uses again and again. Triad. In Chinese, we don't hear gang, we don't hear hu. We hear triad. In Cantonese, we say sam hợp會. And there's a lot behind that word, more than this video can or should handle. So just to be clear, we are not skipping that topic, but we are saving it. This Sleeping Dogs series is planned to have at least 2 episodes, depend on how you respond. In this first video, we are focusing on one core question. Why a game so many people still call underrated never got a sequel? In the next episode, we will slow things down and talk properly about triads, their real history, their hierarchy, and where Sleeping Dogs get it right and where it clearly doesn't. And one more thing. If you have never played Sleeping Dogs before, but this story already has you curious, don't go anywhere. By the end of this video, we will tell you how to get this game for free. So let's get started. At its core, Sleeping Dogs put you in the role of Wei Shen, an undercover cop sent back to Hong Kong with one clear mission: infiltrate a major triad organization known as Sun Ngon Yi. And that name isn't random at all. In real-world Hong Kong history, there is a triad called Sun Yi Ngon, while in the game, it becomes Sun Ngon Yi. Is it a coincidence? I doubt it. And just like in real life, its rivals aren't fictional either. The infamous 14K becomes 18K inside the game. None of this is explained directly to you, especially to Western gamer, but if you know the background, you immediately feel that this world is grounded in something real. I grew up watching Hong Kong crime films, especially Infinite Affairs, Young and Dangerous, and Election. And I've always wondered what would it feel to live inside that kind of story. Sleeping Dogs is one of the few games that try to actually answer that question. Its main story clearly draws inspiration from Infinite Affairs, which some Western audience might know it through its remake, The Departed. Back in early 2010, that kind of undercover, identity-splitting crime story was still incredibly rare in games. In the game, players experience Wei Shen's daily life split cleanly down the middle. As a Triad member, you collect protection money, settle disputes, and climb the ranks. But as a police officer, you respond to crimes, protect civilians, and report back to the department. That tension isn't just story flavor, it defines how the game plays and how every decision feels. One of the biggest reasons the story works so well is the voice cast. Lucy Liu, Kelly Hu, Emma Stone, and most importantly, Edison Chen as Jackie Ma. If you grew up watching Hong Kong films, Edison Chen needs no introduction. His English delivery feels natural, confident, and deeply local at the same time. Whether he's joking, arguing, or panicking, his performance carries real emotional weight. Jackie Ma stands out because it feels human. You can hear ambition early on, then doubt, and later fear.
I almost bought it today, man. For real.
Those emotions land because the performance feels honest.
We got him!
Beyond the characters, the developers put serious effort into recreating Hong Kong itself. During development stage, the team traveled to the city, took over 20,000 reference photos on the street. They also spoke to former police officers and former Triad members, ensuring that every line of dialogue and every character could tell a compelling story while still adhering to real-world logic. The map isn't a one-to-one recreation. Instead, it focuses on 4 key districts, including North Point, Aberdeen, Kennedy Town, and Central. It's not huge, but it's dense and layered. North Point especially captures some things very specific. Tight night markets, neon signs stacked so close that block your view, crowded alleys where everything feels just a little too close. Even the ambient audio was recorded locally. Pedestrians shout in Cantonese, drivers swears at you, the in-car radio plays Cantonese music instead of default English rap. All of it add up to a city that feels familiar, not romanticized, not exaggerated. The combat system is where Sleeping Dogs really separates itself from other open world games. Instead of treating guns as the default answer, the game focuses on hand-to-hand combat. And I think that choice fit the setting very well. As we all know, guns are restricted in Hong Kong, so the game leans into martial art instead. The system is inspired by Batman Arkham Asylum multi-directional counters, but expand on it with environmental kills. Certain objects glow red during fights, drag an enemy into them, and you can trigger brutal, cinematic finishes. Fish tanks, railings, or even incinerators that you can literally cook your enemies. Some of these only appear once in the entire game, which makes discovering them feel less optimization and more like stumbling into chaos. The fighting style draws from many sources, including Tony Jaa's Muay Thai, Bruce Lee Jeet Kune Do, Donnie Yen's Yip Man, and Jackie Chan Drunken Fist style. The game even brought in Sammo Hung as action director along with real MMA consultant. The result is combat that feels physical and deliberate. More about control and impact than shooting. And when vehicles came into play, the tone stays the same. In Sleeping Dogs, the fastest way to escape police isn't drifting or outrunning them. It's ramming their cars until they're wrecked. It's exaggerated, it's ridiculous, but that's exactly like a Hong Kong action film. That's why even years later, people just don't remember Sleeping Dogs as that GTA-like game. They remember it as something that felt different. Up to this point, everything we have talked about explains why Sleeping Dogs feels so good to play. But if we want to understand why it never became a long-running franchise, we also have to look at where the experience starts to crack. Let's start with the combat. Compared to its hand-to-hand system, gunplay in Sleeping Dogs is clearly secondary, and that's intentional. Because of Hong Kong's real-world gun laws, firearms are heavily restricted. In the game, pistols are the only weapon that can be holstered, but rifles, shotguns, and machine guns cannot be stored. If you pick one up, you are forced to drop whatever you were holding. Gunfights themselves are standard third-person shooting. The one mechanic that stands out is vault shooting, what most players remember as bullet time. When you vault over an obstacle, the game drops into slow motion before you land. The more enemies you take down, the longer the slow motion lasts. You can think of it as parkour-style version of Dead Eye in Red Dead Redemption. At first, it feels great, cinematic and stylish. But over time, you start to feel forced. because normal shooting is rarely as effective as bullet time, which pushes you into vaulting constantly. Not because the situation demands it, but because the system does. And that's when gunplay begins to feel more like a gimmick than a natural extension of combat. It's not broken, it's just clearly not the focus. The same issue appears in the side content. I mean, yeah, there are a lot of content, but most side missions are repetitive. Drug busts, races, car thieves, basic brawls. After a while, they blur together. The missions people remember are the exceptions. The Zodiac tournament stands out because of its presentation. It deliberately mimics classic Shaw Brothers and Bruce Lee era kung fu films. From color grading to music and camera framing, it feels like a love letter rather than a checklist. The girlfriend missions are more memorable for a different reason. They unlock small gameplay bonuses, but more importantly, they humanize Wei Shen. They show that even in the middle of violence and undercover work, his personal life still exists. But again, these are highlights, not the norm. Where the game truly succeeds is its protagonist. Wei Shen is a well-written character. As a police officer, he's calm and disciplined. Within the Triad, he's ruthless and emotional. When those two sides collide, the tension feels real. His loyalty to Jackie Ma is the clearest example. When Jackie is buried alive, Wei doesn't hesitate. He charges in no matter the cost. That moment tells you exactly who he is. Jackie himself is another standout. Edison Chen's performance gave him a clear emotional arc. From ambition to doubt to fear, you can hear it in his voice. Especially after he survived being buried alive, it feels raw and genuine. Winston's mother, Auntie Chu, is unforgettable in a completely different way. Her calm, maternal presence mixed with the brutal decisiveness turns a revenge scene into something uniquely disturbing and memorable. The infamous human char siu bao moment works not just because it's shocking, but because the character behind it feels real. The problem is what happened outside of these few characters. Once you move beyond Wei Shen, Jackie, and a handful of others, the supporting cast start to blur together. Many characters look similar, sound similar, and lack of distinct personalities. Even as a Chinese player, it can be hard to remember who is who. So leave alone the Western players. Let's be real, when players struggle to distinguish characters, emotional engagement drops. When engagement drops, immersion breaks. And that's the core issue. Sleeping Dogs does many things extremely well, but it doesn't do everything well enough to carry its ambition. And that tension between what it gets right and where it falls short is exactly where the story of its cancellation begins. So by now, the answer becomes pretty clear. Sleeping Dogs didn't fail because it was bad. It failed because it was good, but not strong enough where it mattered the most. The game nailed its core idea. Wei Shen is a strong protagonist, Jackie Ma is emotionally memorable, a few supporting characters like Auntie Chu really stand out. But beyond those highlights, many characters start to blur together. They all look similar and feel less defined. And when players can't clearly remember characters, emotional connection weakens. And when that connection weakens, emotion breaks. That's where the cultural gaps start to matter. Sleeping Dogs is deeply rooted in Hong Kong culture. Its value, its crime stories, its ideal of loyalty. However, at that time in 2012, most single-player sales were on consoles. So the game's biggest consumer market was still in Europe and Northern America. For many Western players, that world already felt unfamiliar. When character design didn't help them latch onto the cast, curiosity turned into distance. At the same time, the competition was brutal. As an urban open world crime game, Sleeping Dogs was always going to be compared to GTA. and that's a comparison almost no studio can win. Rockstar builds world with extreme depth, system, details, and interactions everywhere. United Front games simply didn't have that scale or budget. Hong Kong in Sleeping Dogs looked vibrant and stylish, but once you spend time in it, the cities feel shallow. NPC interactions are limited, public transport are mostly decoration, side activities repeat quickly. It is a beautiful city, but not a deeply reactive one. Then came the timing. In 2013, GTA 5 launched and dominated everything. After that, competing in the same game genre wasn't just hard, it was unrealistic. From Square Enix points of view, the numbers were clear. Sleeping Dogs sold about 1.5 million copies, while Hitman Absolution and Tomb Raider sold far more and much faster. So even though there were plans for a sequel, even though Wei Shen was meant to return, and the story was supposed to expand into Pearl River Delta, those plans just didn't survive the math. In the end, Sleeping Dogs didn't lose because it lacked identity. It lost because identity alone wasn't enough. And that's why people still call it underrated today. Not because it was ignored, but because it chose its own path and ran out of room to keep going. So to wrap things up, Sleeping Dogs isn't remembered because it tried to be GTA. It remembered because it didn't. It told a story that only works in Hong Kong, a story about loyalty, pressure, and living between two worlds. And even today, that still feels rare. But there's one part of this game we have only touched on briefly, and honestly, it deserves a full conversation of its own. There's a scene where Wei Shen and Jackie Ma take part in a Triad initiation ritual, and if you know even a little about real Triad history, the way that scene is shown feels surprisingly informal. In reality, Triad rituals are anything but casuals. Their history is complicated, their hierarchy is strict, and their symbols and rules go far deeper than what the game shows. And that's exactly what we are diving into the next. In the next episode, we are going to slow things down and talk properly about triads, where they came from, how their hierarchy works, what those rituals actually mean, and which part Sleeping Dogs got it right, which part were clearly simplified or altered. If you enjoyed this episode and if you are curious about the real world culture behind the game, then the next video is absolutely for you. And before you go, if you have never played Sleeping Dogs before, or you have been watching this thinking, maybe I should give it a try, we got something for you. In this episode, we are giving away 3 copies of Sleeping Dogs Definitive Edition Steam versions. To enter the giveaway is very simple. CLSS, comment, like, share, and subscribe to our channel. And here's the question we want you to answer. If Rockstar or another major studio were to make a new open world crime game set in Asia, which city would you want to explore and why? We will announce the winners in this pinned comment on February 4th. Thank you very much for watching guys, and I will see you in the next one. Billy's out.